Hi, everybody. My name's Jack Oliver, and I'm here to talk about um, the York Rite of Freemasonry. I've been a Freemason for over 25 years and a York Rite Mason for over 20 of those years. And I will be presenting the next in a series of talks on Freemasonry from the Masonic Library and Museum of Philadelphia Speaker Series. Again, this talk is on the York Rite of Freemasonry. And the reason I entitled this talk, Who Are These Guys? Is that when I was about 10 years old, the Knights Templars came to our church. I had no idea who they were, but I was very impressed by their uniforms. I remember thinking to myself, who are these guys? It wasn't until I was middle-aged adult that I found out who they were and began my Masonic journey to become one. So who are the Knights Templars and how do you become one if you're so inclined? And the Knights Templars are a Christian-oriented fraternal organization, and the top-ranking Masonic organization in the York Rite of Freemasonry. You do not have to be a Christian to join either the York Rite or the Knights Templars, but it is Christian-oriented. The symbol for the Knights Templars is the cross and the crown, and their motto is the Latin term in hoc signo vinces, which means in this sign, victory. And that stems from Constantine, the emperor of Rome, when he fought to be the emperor. He looked up and he saw in the sun the red cross, and he knew he was going to win the battle. So that became the symbol for Constantine and the Knights Templars. So now that you know who the Templars are, what is the York Rite? Well, Freemasonry has 3 degrees, which are entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master mason. Once you become a master mason, you do not need to go any further in your Masonic journey. A 3rd-degree master mason is just as much a mason as a 32nd degree Scottish mason or a Knight Templar through the York Rite. However, some members want to learn more about masonry and the meaning of the degree work in those first 3 degrees. So we have the York Rite and the Scottish Rite for them. This talk is going to be focused on the York Rite. So once a brother becomes a Master Mason, he can elect to participate in one or both of these 2 appendant bodies, which again are Scottish Rite of Masonry and the York Rite of Freemasonry. The York Rite contains 4 bodies or parts, which are the Blue Lodge, in which you receive your first 3 degrees and become a Master Mason. The next comes the chapter of Royal Archmasons, in which the next 4 degrees are awarded. After this is the Council of Royal and Select Masters, where the next 3 degrees are presented. And finally, the Commandery of Knights Templars, where the final 3 degrees are awarded. The symbols for the 4 York Rite bodies are presented below. This pamphlet is one they issue to people to give them an overview of what the York Rite contains. It has the Mason refers to as its mystic ladder, symbolic of the degrees. And in Masonry, we talk about light. And it says in this pamphlet, there ye shall find light at the top step. Light is always the candidate's object. In the Bible, Christians are called sons of light. And so as light not being like a light bulb, but a spiritual light, that when God created the heavens and the earth, he stretched forth his hand and said, let there be light, and there was light. But the sun wasn't created according to the Bible till the 3rd day. So This light is a spiritual light. They used the term a lot in education. He was enlightened. And so that is the term we use a lot in Masonry on really all the degrees. The ladder in the previous slide shows the four Masonic bodies that make up the York Rite of Freemasonry. Each step of the ladder represents a different degree. The use of a ladder comes from the biblical story of Jacob, who, while using a rock as a pillow, dreamt he saw a ladder rising from earth to heaven. In the dream, he saw angels going up and down the ladder and the Lord standing on it. This story is recounted in Genesis 28:11 in the Bible. A little trivia about Jacob's stone, and it's this. Legend has it that it still exists and is used in the coronation of English monarchs as a sign that the monarch is anointed by God. Today it is called the Stone of Scone or the Stone of Destiny. Please keep in mind that operative Masons work with physical stones, but Freemasons work with spiritual stones, which are ourselves. A physical stone has rough edges and therefore needs to be smoothed so that it will fit into the building in which it will be placed. A spiritual stone also has rough edges that need to be smoothed. As the famous football coach Vince Lombardi once said, we will never reach perfection, but if we try, we just might reach excellence. As Freemasonry, we are doing likewise with ourselves. So our bodies are structures, temples, not made with hands. We must strive to remove the rough edges of ourselves so that we can fit in with others and have happy, joyous lives. Freemasonry helps us do this, and the York Rite is but one of many programs Freemasonry offers to supplement our efforts. So getting back to the York Rite bodies and their degrees, after the Blue Lodge degrees, we have the degrees of the chapter of Royal Arch Masons. Mark Master degree, in which the candidate learns how to properly collect wages, select his mark so that he can recognize his stone from other stone, and about the stone that the builders rejected. The next degree is the past master degree, in which the candidate is virtually made a past master. He may not be a past master or have been a past master if he takes the York Rite degrees, but in this degree, they teach him the duties and responsibilities of a master so that he has that knowledge so he can more better enjoy the degree work. But he first must learn how to obey before he can rule, and to govern himself before he can govern others. Continuing with the chapter of Royal Arch Masons, we have the next degree, which is Most Excellent Master degree, in which King Solomon's temple is completed, and the laborers receive a blessing from both the Lord and also from King Solomon. The next degree, the Royal Arch degree, in which King Solomon's temple is destroyed and the Israelites taken away into captivity in Babylon. Next, we have the three Council of Royal and Select Master degrees. The first one is the Royal Master degree, in which the candidate is instructed on the preservation of Freemasonry information. Next is the Select Master degree, which affords an explanation of the Royal Arch degree. And third, we have the Super Excellent Master degree, which refers to circumstances and incidences during the siege of Jerusalem and the final destruction of the temple. Finally, we have the Commandery of Knights Templars degree. The first one is the Order of the Red Cross degree, in which the candidate learns that the captured holy vessels taken from the Old Testament will be Old Temple rather, I'm sorry, will be returned to the New Temple. And two, the Order of Malta and the Mediterranean Pass degree switches to the time of the Crusades and safe passage to the Holy Lands. The degree culminates in the enrollment of the candidate as a Knight of Malta. Continuing with the Commandery of Knights Templar degrees, the Order of the Temple degree, in which the candidate is knighted as a Christian warrior. The Order of the Temple is often called the most beautiful of all the orders and degrees in Masonry. No Mason who is a believer in the Christian religion should be satisfied until he has received this, the capstone of the York Rite. In the picture we have below, we show several Knights Templars, including the prelate. Each commandery has a prelate who is a high-ranking religious leader to guide them. So if you're interested in joining the York Rite, here's how. If you are not already a Mason, you must petition a Blue Lodge and take the first 3 degrees. Most communities have Masonic lodges in them. You can either call or visit them. The key to joining any Masonic organization is to remember the following. Seek, and ye shall find. Seek out a Masonic lodge. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. Ask for a petition to join. And 3, knock, and the door will be opened to you. At initiation, you will knock at the door of the lodge, and it will be opened. These are just a few fun facts about Knights Templars. And I think a lot of people have found Knights Templary to be very interesting, their history. The Templars were established in 1119 in the Christian era. It was a medieval military order whose members combined military prowess with a monastic life to defend Christian holy sites and pilgrims in the Middle East and elsewhere. The Templars were headquartered in Jerusalem near the site of King Solomon's Temple, which is how they got their name. Also, legend has it that Templars did excavation in and around the temple site and found relics from the temple. These relics were used in religious rituals and will be needed again when the temple is rebuilt in Jerusalem. Legend holds that God made the Templars the custodian of these relics until they can be used again in the new temple. For safekeeping, they took these relics with them to Scotland and allegedly are buried under the Rosslyn Chapel. Unfortunately, on Friday, October 13th, 1312, the Templars were betrayed by King Philip IV of France, partially because the king owed them quite a bit of money, and partly due to their losses in battle in the Middle East. The Holy Lands were taken over by their enemies, and that was something that impacted them in a negative way. The king had the Grand Master of the Knights Templars, a fellow named Jacques de Molay, arrested and tortured to reveal the location of Templar wealth and supplies. De Molay withstood the torture for several days while the Templars secured the wealth and sailed to Scotland, where again they built the Rosslyn Chapel to store their wealth, supplies, and temple relics. Pope Clement V also withdrew his support for the Templars, At that time, the Pope was in Avignon, France, under the watchful eye of King Philip IV of France. And these are just a few pictures of the Templars. The one on the right is from their Easter services in Washington, D.C. at the Masonic building there. The one on the upper left is obviously their unit picture. And the bottom left is a friend of mine, a fellow named George Herpelsheimer, over in Massachusetts, who's very, very active in Masonry, not just the York Rite or the Knights Templars, but everything in Freemasonry. So he has a very nice uniform and all that. So I kind of used him as my model for this presentation. So, any case, that concludes my talk on the York Rite of Freemasonry, a program I found very enlightening and enjoyable. And for the record, I have found all of my Masonic journeys to be very enjoyable. And I think a lot of people say to me, do you have any regrets about joining Freemasonry? And I always tell them the same thing. I say, yes, I regret I didn't join sooner. Thank you. I really appreciate your time and attention to this presentation.